Nobody can hit like Earnie Shavers. He had a crunch punch, and he was real, like a welterweight. He'd come back. Whap!
The one greatest punch I have ever seen is owned by a man named Earnie Shavers.
Earnie Shavers was, according to everybody he ever hit, the hardest hitter in human history.
The strongest
man, just in terms of
Earnie Shavers.
Really?
Yeah, man. I didn't really believe he was as good as he was. I predicted he was 197, but he was good. He took all I had and he hit real hard.
He might not have had the speed and snap of Mike Tyson, or the brutal strength of George Foreman. But if you took a punch from Earnie and lived to tell the tale, your all-time greatest punchers list got its #1 spot replaced.
Shavers hit me so hard, felt like somebody was hitting on each one of my toes with a hammer. That's real bad.
There were no exceptions or second guesses. Ernie's power is something every fighter wishes they had.
You ever been kicked by a horse? Feels just like that, but on your chin.
Oh my God.
He didn't take up fighting until his 20s. It stunted his growth on a technical level. Earnie would never be the most refined classical boxer, and he didn't need to be. The only game plan he ever needed was to go knock that man unconscious. The first victim of the hardest hitter in human history comes as Earnie was working his way up the rankings. Former champ Jimmy Ellis was a defensive specialist who was a sparring partner for Muhammad Ali. He stepped into the spotlight when Ali was stripped of the title. In 1973, Ellis was on the comeback trail, having knocked out his 8 previous opponents. He came here looking to knock out Earnie, too.
Pouring it on here in round 1. Shavers is hurt. Jimmy Ellis is trying to end it here in the opening round.
But it wasn't long before Shavers came out of the corner, grabbed Jimmy by his head, and sent it out of orbit at the speed of a space shuttle. Earnie Shavers' uppercut was an elevator to God. Earnie was still a novice compared to the rest of the top 10. While nobody could quite match his power, his skills left something to be desired. So the best game plan was to get Earnie out of there before he could get you. The skills Earnie slowly learned made him all the more dangerous. The world slowly learned that the hardest power puncher of all time also had the heart of a lion. Ron Lyle loved a slugfest just as much as Earnie. The ex-con did 1,000 push-ups a day in his cell, waiting out the sentence for a gang-related murder he didn't commit. Ron was quite accustomed to the up-close and personal havoc Earnie unleashed. While Ernie's massive power was without question, it's finesse that wins fights at the top level. While Ron Lyle was hardly the picture of classical technique, there will always be room in the heavyweight division for reckless violence. and Earnie and Ron set a pace you knew would never last the distance. While Earnie came up short, the boxing world came away impressed by both men. Earnie would get in the habit of getting into wars. But for a short heavyweight who started in his 20s, war was the only option.
Good left hook, and there it was right there. Very good counter hook there.
Against Roy Williams, Shavers fought the early rounds and had the punch selection of a baseball pitcher.
He's supposed to be able to really take a good punch, which we're going to find out about today, but he's got a right hand.
Every third strike was a fastball, high and inside.
He's using the ropes a lot to the far side of the ring now. Shavers is trying to get those hands right.
Roy stood right in there and waited out the explosion. It was a gamble. A lot of guys woke up in hospitals trying to outlast Ernie's cardio.
Ryan weighs what, 230? 230. But Tiger might have been moving away from him. He was moving away a little, but then again, Ernie's going to punch himself out. Batter's in a much situation now. Shavers staggered by that. Shavers punching uphill, but trying to carry it. Ooh,
Williams managed it. He turned the tide and went in on Earnie late.
Two good hooks by Roy Williams, who is rebound, and Tiger Williams is now. Williams very aggressive. A right hand by Williams, and Shavers.
A modern ref would have called this fight a knockout loss for Shavers. But a second win late saw Earnie dig deep. And put Williams away with the 5-point palm exploding brain technique. Roy took his steps and falls face first like Ric Flair selling. Earnie soon found himself in a #1 contender fight with Larry Holmes. Larry earned his fame as a sparring partner for Ali and Joe Frazier before going on a long unbeaten streak to begin his career. Larry was regarded as a slick boxer, but he'd never seen real trouble in the ring. Earnie Shavers was nothing if not real trouble. Larry's elegant jab and gliding footwork were his calling cards. But it was against the hardest puncher in history that Larry would ultimately prove his grit. And take a clear win in the #1 contenders match. Larry went on to fight Ken Norton in a classic 15-rounder. that came to its final chaotic round. Larry took the decision to win his title. That left Norton and Shavers in precarious positions career-wise. Each man was well into their 30s, and each man realized their time at the top were running short.
I've been training very hard for this fight. I've been away from my family for like 9 weeks.
That's your whole fight plan, to try and get him out early. Go right on him, right?
As soon as the bell rings, he won't have to look for me.
While Ken Norton was hell on his slick and skillful opponents, Kenny's chin had been cracked before.
And Foreman is
And if Ernie could do one thing well, he could definitely crack.
Immediately, Kenny's backed against the ropes, and Shavers tries to take off on him, to punch himself out in a hurry.
It wouldn't take long for Ernie to put another nail in the coffin on Ken Norton's career.
Oh, Norton's in trouble. Shavers scored heavily with a left. Norton showing no movement at all. Whatever his strategy, he's paying a price for it. There's Norton, the first knockdown. Scored in the, there goes Norton. This time I don't know if he can get up. It's stopped. Bill Blaine has stopped the fight.
God damn it. Oh my God, they killed Kenny, you bastards.
Earnie Shavers, and it went exactly as you called it, my friend.
Well, Howard, I've been training for 9 weeks. I have a good shape. I know Ken Norton was afraid of me. I was fighting Kenny Norton and Joe Gennaro. I couldn't lose.
You're going to get your shot at Holmes in September. What makes you think it will be different? He's a different fighter from Norton's steady lateral movement.
Well, I'll be in shape, and I'll cut him off, and I'll make him fight. I'll put a lot of pressure, and I will be in shape. Believe me, I will catch him.
His destruction of Norton earned Ernie his rematch with Larry Holmes, this time for the title. The world knew there was no way Ernie was going to win on the cards.
Earnie Shavers. Holmes knows what he's about. Oh, that was the right.
Larry was smoother than boiling oil.
Make one mistake and you can go in a hurry. But Holmes' left gets good. A gun chill. There's the right leg. Now the right. And suddenly, Holmes is adopting a new weapon.
Ernie knew he only had one shot to become a champion, and in the 7th round, he landed it.
Holmes seems to be coming to himself now. But
According to Larry, this punch left a calcium deposit on his skull that never went away. According to Larry, the punch knocked him out, and he hit his head on the floor hard enough to wake him up. According to Larry, when Shavers landed, all he saw was lights. In this moment, a walking dead Larry Holmes reanimates. And even his corpse was up for a fight. Jack Dempsey said, "A champion is a man who stands up when he can't." Larry Holmes certainly qualified.
he almost lost it to the courage and right hand of a man who's listed.
Ernie would never win a title. An eye surgery threatened to cut short his career, but even still, Ernie tanked his way through it and fought on. The last great night of Earnie Shavers came as a wily old veteran in with a young knockout artist.
At the weigh-in, almost by the reason Sims got after him was because he was...
Jeff Sims was determined to get Ernie out of there as fast as possible. Ernie walked onto a hard right hand in the first that dropped him. But after all these years and all these fights, the hardest puncher of all time was now also an experienced professional.
it up. Now he's using his foot.
A little unsteady on his own feet.
He waited out the bombs, and in the fourth, caught the young man ducking onto his uppercut. From that moment on, Sims looked like he was fighting on two sprained ankles. After 2 minutes on ice skates, the ref steps in to save him.
We stopped a technical knockout victory for Earnie Shavers.
134 of the fourth.
Every boxer spends endless hours seeking a portion of the power Earnie seemed to summon from nowhere. No amount of time spent chopping trees or pumping iron will allow you to hit the way Earnie Shavers did. And that brings the final and ultimately unfair conclusion. Punchers are born. Pure power is a gift from God or genetics. And Earnie Shavers was born a more natural slugger than any human in history. With his recent passing at age 78, the king of power punching, with 69 KOs on his record, can now finally rest in it.